40 Filipino soldiers trapped by Syrian rebels in the Golan Heights. Imagine being surrounded by more than 100 armed militants, outnumbered, trapped in freezing hills, and forced to choose between surrender and a daring escape. This is the true story of 40 Filipino peacekeepers in the Golan Heights. Subscribe now, hit like, and leave your comment. This one you'll never believe. Chapter 1. Deployment into the unknown. The year was 2014. The conflict in Syria had spread far beyond its borders, and a narrow strip of land known as the Golan Heights lay between Syria and Israel, an area once quiet, now teetering on the edge of war. The United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, UNDOF, had kept peace there since 1974, but the storm was coming. Into that storm stepped a contingent of approximately 331 Filipino peacekeepers, representing the Philippines in this international mission. Among them were two small outposts, known as Position 68 and Position 69, manned by around 75 Filipino soldiers in total. These men and women wore blue helmets and carried out their duties far from home. Many in the Philippines did not fully realize how dangerous their mission would become. They patrolled, observed, and sought to maintain calm in a land that was anything but calm. But when August came, the calm broke. Rebels from Syria, including fighters linked to the Jabhat al-Nusra, an al-Qaeda-affiliated group, moved into the UN buffer zone. Suddenly, the peacekeepers found themselves in the middle of one of the most dangerous flare-ups in the Golan in decades. At dawn on 30th of August 2014, at around 6 a.m. local time, alarms sounded at one of the posts. Filipino soldiers looked out across the ridge, knowing this time things were different. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this story so far, please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments what you think they should do now. Surrender or fight. Chapter 2. The siege begins. Ambushed in the Golan. It was early morning in the Golan Heights, August 2014. Peace seemed fragile, but the storm had already begun. For the roughly 75 Filipino soldiers stationed at two remote UN posts, Position 68 and Position 69, under the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, UNDOF, the day would change their lives forever. Around 30th August, fighters linked to the al-Nusra Front, the al-Qaeda-affiliated rebel group, stormed into the buffer zone, capturing the crossing at Kenitra Crossing and taking 43 Fijian peacekeepers hostage. Then they turned their attention to the Filipino posts. Rebels surrounded Position 68, demanding that the Filipinos surrender their weapons. But these men refused. Instead, they prepared to defend. Imagine being surrounded in an outpost where the only way out is through barbed wire, mines, and a minefield. That's exactly what they faced. Reports say about 100+ militants joined the siege, fired mortars, tried ramming the gates, and risked everything to break in. Despite orders from the UN approving minimal engagement, the Filipino commander back in Manila said they would stand their ground and use deadly force if needed. Here, the war game had turned real. The soldiers' hearts pounded. Every shadow could be a rebel. Every thud against the gate could be the last. The silence between gunshots weighed like lead. "If we give up our weapons, we're done," one soldier reportedly thought. Another whispered to his comrade, "Stay sharp, keep calm. We will get out of this." Halfway through the siege, the situation darkened. The rebels reinforced their numbers, and the Filipino troops were running low on ammunition, but they held on. The sense of duty, the bond among comrades, and the thought of home kept them moving. If you're enjoying this story and want the rest of the escape, please go ahead and subscribe, hit that like, and leave a comment. What would you do in their place? The hours dragged on. The sun sank, the chill of the height sharpened, and the Filipino soldiers prepared for what would come next, either breakout or final stand. Chapter 3. Outnumbered and under fire, refusing to surrender. The silence broke at dawn. A deafening roar of metal and mortar shook the camp. The 40 Filipino peacekeepers at Position 68, part of the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, UNDOF, were surrounded by more than 100 rebel fighters. Rebel trucks smashed the gate. Mortar rounds pummeled sandbags. The rebels demanded, "Hand over your weapons or die!" But the Filipinos made a decision. They would not surrender. They would defend. Their orders from the UN command were to minimize engagement, but inside their hearts, they knew. Surrender meant losing everything: honor, arms, mission. According to the Philippine Senate resolution, they refused to give up their firearms. Wearing their blue helmets, dusty from the rocky Golan Hills, the soldiers took cover behind concrete fortifications. A mortar shell landed just meters away, sending shrapnel into the earth. The air cracked, the ground trembled. Captain Reyes, alias, felt the fear. He locked eyes with his men. "Stay calm. We hold here," he whispered. The men nodded. For 7 long hours they held off the attackers. The rebels tried every tactic: mortar fire, crashing gates, overwhelming numbers. Meanwhile, on the world stage, UN headquarters watched. The Filipino commander in Manila tracked the firefight. External support came from unusual allies. Syrian government forces fired long-distance artillery to relieve the pressure. Inside the bunker, the radio crackled. A voice. "Fall back? Retreat?" Silence. Then the answer, "No, we move only when we choose." Their ammunition ran low, exhaustion biting, but the bond among them grew stronger. Memories of home, families, islands of the Philippines, laughs with friends fueled their resolve. As the sun sank behind the Golan ridges, the worst of the attack receded. The rebels still surrounded them, but the first small chance appeared. A ceasefire, a dark night, slipping away. At this moment, I want you to take a second. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were surrounded like this? Fight or flee? The stage was now set. With dawn approaching, the Filipino soldiers prepared to escape the trap. The night would either be their deliverance or their end. Chapter 4. The Midnight Escape. Courage in Darkness. When night fell, the danger did not end. It changed. Surrounded by hundreds of rebel fighters, the 40 Filipino peacekeepers at position 68 had one option left: escape. According to reports, they slipped away after 7 intense hours of fighting, and under the cover of darkness, they walked roughly 2.3 kilometers across frozen, mine-strewn terrain to reach Israeli lines. Their plan was bold. While the rebels thought the siege held firm, the Filipinos quietly prepared. They cut the barbed wire fence. They moved at night. Their hearts raced. Each footstep weighed heavy. Around midnight, they climbed a 3-meter wall and entered a minefield. Every shadow could hide a rebel. Every rustle might be a trigger. Yet they held together. Their mission: survive and bring home their team. As they walked silently across the hills, memories of home kept them going. The laughter of friends, the smell of fresh rice, the warm sun of the Philippines. One soldier whispered, "Just a bit more. We'll make it." Back at UN headquarters, the world watched. A ceasefire had been negotiated, briefly, but the Filipinos chose the moment. When the rebel guard slumbered, they moved. Rebels had believed victory was theirs, but the peacekeepers had something stronger: courage and unity. At dawn, they arrived safely. The Philippine military called it the greatest escape. Their boots are dusty, their faces were tired, but they carried their arms and their pride, and they brought the world a message. When stand down isn't an option, stand up. If you're inspired by their bravery, please subscribe, hit that like, and tell us in the comments, which moment do you think was the bravest? Chapter 5. Aftermath, Heroes and Lessons Learned. The aftermath of the siege in the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, UNDOF, zone, left a lasting mark, not just on the map of the Golan Heights, but in the hearts of every Filipino warrior, family member, and fellow peacekeeper. Reports show that on 28 to 30 August 2014, about 75 Filipino peacekeepers at 2 posts refused to surrender despite being surrounded by rebels. When the 40 men finally slipped away under cover of darkness, exhausted but unbeaten, the world took note. Reuters reports the Filipinos fended off hundreds of rebels from the Islamic militant Nusra Front group before escaping under cover of darkness to Israel. Back home in the Philippines, the response was emotional and profound. Families cried, a nation watched, and the message was clear. These were not just peacekeepers, they were heroes. The Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs acknowledged their professionalism and commitment. But more than just praise, this incident brought hard lessons. It revealed how a peacekeeping mission can rapidly turn into a battlefield. The UN's minimum use of force rules were tested. National commands and UN commands clashed. Some orders said surrender, others said defend. For the young soldier in training today, the story is one of duty, courage, and brotherhood. The 40 Filipino peacekeepers didn't surrender weapons, didn't abandon each other, and when they walked out of the Golan Hills at dawn, they carried not just their arms, but their integrity and flag. And for you watching, if you felt the suspense, the fear, and then the relief of their escape, please like this video, comment below on what heroic act inspired you most, and subscribe to our channel for more untold military history stories. As we close this story, remember, bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's action in spite of fear. These men refused to lay down arms, refused to be mere victims, and turned what could have been a tragic stand into a triumphant escape. If you enjoyed diving deep into this night of terror turned victory, share this video so others can hear the story of the 40 Filipino peacekeepers who stared down danger and walked out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next phase of history. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and let us know in the comments which moment in this story gave you chills. You'll want to stick around, because the next story will take us even deeper into the shadows of war. Thank you so much for subscribing, liking, and commenting on our video. God bless us all. See you in our next video.